wants to be the lead guy on a team. He's like, I did 10 years as a sidekick. I think Jaylen Brown wants his own team. I can't square the circle of him making the point to do that Twitch stream the day after a devastating Game 7 loss, after blowing a 3-1 lead, and making the point of announcing this is was my favorite year and everything that went along with it, plus all of the little subtle things he did throughout the year, making it very clear how much fun he was having, and posting the Celtics numbers and record at this point last year versus this year. I understand it's, nobody believed in us, and I'm sure I get that piece of it. But I think, listen, he's done 10 years in Boston. He's won a championship. He's been a finals MVP. He's gotten the huge contract. What he hasn't ever been prior to this year, and then it wasn't really at the end, is the number one guy. I think he liked it. He told us it was the most fun he's ever had. And I think given the fact that Brad Stevens said we weren't that close this year, we were 3-11 against the top seeds, we lost in round 1, all of that, and with Giannis hanging out there, makes me believe it is more likely than not that Jaylen Brown is not on the Boston Celtics next year. If I were running a team, I wouldn't consider trading. There's two very simple Jaylen Brown trades. One is the one I showed yesterday, which is Jaylen and a first for Giannis. It's that simple. The one that's a little more complicated, but it achieves the same thing, is if Milwaukee's like, we don't want to be good, we want to start over. The Celtics get Giannis. The Bucks from Atlanta get Dyson Daniels, Jonathan Kuminga, and then 3 picks from Atlanta, including their own first rounder next year, which for Milwaukee would be super valuable. I just think if you're, so maybe, again, tweak it maybe, is my point is you could easily send Jaylen to Atlanta if they are like more of a win now and they could help grease the skids of this trade. I just think that's where this train is heading towards.
Oh, that nigga want his own. I didn't even know that. He want his own. This is mine. I don't want no emerging star. Put me around role players and let me show the NBA what I can do. Damn near Dolly. He want a Cade Cunningham team, bro.
That's what it sound like.
I mean, because I don't know. When you say the organization, I mean, like, they gave you $300 million. I don't really know what else you
got the players around you.
He still, when Tatum there, he still don't feel like he the guy.
Yeah, I mean,
they probably look at Jason a little bit different.
Light. Yeah, and he probably like shit. That's why he gonna have to go to an organization like the Hawks, because we accept. we accept.
Put your bid
like
in. Fuck it. Go crazy.
Nah, I'm being for real. Like, you in a black city. Like, everything that come, like, Boston.
Yeah.
Listen.
That's as black as you gonna get in ATL.
Listen, Boston.
That's a fact.
Boston is different.
Yeah, different demographics.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So, like, and they probably love JB, but you will be embraced.
For Jaylen Brown, it was very confusing because a lot of people were saying, hey, he's carrying that Boston Celtics team. But their record this season without Jaylen Brown was fantastic. They were still a 50-win team and even better without him in uniform. And then you go to the in-game, on-court, off-court metrics, and it does not paint a pretty picture about Jaylen Brown's ability to win games.
And just to be clear for people, offensively, with him and without him, they were roughly the same. It was too close to be like, oh, they were worse without him on offense, right? That would be a bit dishonest. But defensively, the gap was a little bit bigger. They were better defensively without him. And in this postseason, they were way better when he was not on the floor than when he was on the floor. And looking at those numbers and them being combined with the sort of things he was saying about enjoying this season the most out of any other season, I would love to know how the rest of the Celtics felt about this, because even if they aren't necessarily looking at the numbers, they know intuitively, hey, man, we're actually better when he's not here.
And when you talk about him saying on a stream, he knows that it's going to be clipped and aggregated, where he says so much by just saying this was my favorite year in the NBA. That's a wrap.
So let's talk about Jaylen Brown. That relationship with I seen an article on it. That relationship with the Boston Celtics is, who knows what's going on. Yeah, who knows what's going on there. They could be splitting. But Yeah, let's just talk about Pistons acquiring Jaylen Brown. I mean, obviously the Celtics need help in the middle. The dangerous thing about it for both teams is trading significant pieces from their teams in the Eastern Conference, where for years to come they can see each other. You know what I'm saying? And no, Jaylen Brown is interesting. He's one of those guys that's underappreciated in the NBA. I don't think that's by accident. I'm not gonna get into one of the reasons why they paid him as a villain. I'll leave that for my main channel. But last year, to me, he was the MVP. That team, they pretty much stripped down to the, they stripped it down. I think new ownership came in. They traded pieces. And they was basically starting over, and he got them to the second seed in the East. You sit up there and you say some of the best two-way players in the world amongst the top 10 players, he right at the top of the list, with Cade Cunningham. So instantly you add a guy who's elite on both sides. He showed he can carry the team on both sides. I mean, I always bring this up now regarding him. When Kawhi was on that run, when he gave the Thompson twins 50 balls back-to-back, Jaylen Brown, I think, put the clamps on Kawhi and turned around and gave him like a 40 or 50 piece himself. So 29 years old, it's a little bit less of a risk for Giannis. There's talks heating up about Giannis going to Boston. Now, is there any way that the Pistons can get in on that and send Brown to Detroit and Giannis to Boston and send some compensation to Milwaukee? Yeah, I mean, but I know Giannis wants to. I mean, Boston fit the criteria when you start talking about, they want a point guard. They want a team that doesn't have a dominant. They want a team that doesn't have a dominant ball handler. They really don't. East Coast team. So yeah, I mean, his criteria fit well. The rumor is he would prefer to go to Miami. But if I'm the Pistons, I hear people talking about, well, Kawhi. I wouldn't mind getting Jaylen Brown. I know that money is up there, but I think Jaylen Brown's a great fit for the Pistons. Championship caliber, stand-up dude. Can score it, can shoot it. He ain't the best shooter in the world, but he's a respectable shooter. You put him out there, and there's no real liabilities in his game. Durable. We talked about a lot of these guys we wanted to add, Trey Murphy, Lauri Markkanen. Some of these dudes got durability issues, you know what I mean? So I think Jaylen Brown being a great fit. The contract is nasty. But if y'all really listen to what I'm saying, I'm more of the belief, I'd rather just break it down to have multiple really good guys. I'm more of the belief of, I don't mind trading for Yaxel Lindenborg, keeping Tobias, letting them grow you write a passage or Tobias tutor him. I'm not opposed to that. Getting a guy like Kobe White or Norman Powell or Zach LaVine, and then getting a Monk or somebody off the bench or Bojanovic off the bench, and hopefully Beasley come back and really, power the squad there. I don't mind building around Duran, Asar Thompson, and Cade Cunningham. If I can get a Lindenborg, if I can get a guy next to them, Kobe White or Zach LaVine next to them and make that work, and some firepower off the bench with some shooting, I don't mind that. I don't mind it at all. And I'm not opposed to, getting Cade a flat out running partner, but I think Duran can grow into that guy. I think a lot of y'all just, we need it now. And, you got to remember the Clippers was one of those teams that it's my money and I want it now. And they was championship chasing. And that was because of Kawhi wanted Paul George. They was both two SoCal kids. Unfortunately, they traded the MVP away from the Clippers. The Clippers got the worst luck. Y'all do know the Clippers is the reason why James Worthy ended up on the Lakers. They traded a pick to the Lakers, and it ended up being the number one pick, which if the Clippers had that pick, they would have had Dominique Wilkins. They would have took Dominique Wilkins over James Worthy. I've said this in passing in other videos. James Worthy was the best fit, for the Los Angeles Lakers. Dominique was just a scoring machine. Worthy was a great defender. He found his way in the league. I mean, it was just a better fit. Dominique is still overall considered a better, probably, offensive player, but Worthy was a better fit. But if the Clippers had that pick, Dominique probably would have been with the Clippers, right? I don't think they would have took Worthy. But yeah, I mean, I'm more the variety of just spreading it out, balance. You know, I think Cade can be a star. I think Cade is a superstar. I just think the notoriety need to match that. I think Duren can be a star, and I think building around them with pieces. They ain't that far away, regardless of how y'all feel, even with the inability to shoot. And I think they shot themselves in the foot by not playing faster. They too young, too athletic not to play fast. You know, the guys who can't shoot, Ryan, Asar, Duren, you know what I'm saying? They can't shoot, but they can run. You know, the Pistons got one of the most athletic teams. They should push the pace a lot more. That even in the playoffs, there's opportunities to push the pace a lot more because of how good their defense is, and they're not taking advantage of that. But I wouldn't be mad if they got Brown. It's a lot of money committed. Now, Brown and Booker, who a better fit? Brown's a better player, you know what I'm saying? But Booker may be a better fit. But I mean, like I said, man, they don't need that star. I think they got guys that can be those stars on that team. But if you can just wait it out until they develop and support them with guys that kind of cover their deficiencies, whether it be Markkanen or Murphy, whether it be, you know, guys that can just get buckets, Norman Powell, you know, Bojanovic from Sacramento. I mean, from out there, he did play in Sacramento, out there in Atlanta. You know, Monk, Levine. If you can just wait it out, you know, I think that's the thing to do. But if you go out there, get a Brown, get a Booker, get a Young, I'm just throwing names out there, big names, Kawhi, Cade, I understand it. But I think if you can manipulate the cap and fill those needs, and they don't have to be, you don't have to go out there and get, a big Jordan name like Michael Jordan Retro 12 or 2 or 1 or 3. Nah. Some nice Adidas Turbo Boosts would be cool. You know what I'm saying? Some nice Reeboks would be cool. Some nice New Balances would be cool. You ain't got to get no Christian Louis Vuittons and no red bottoms, if you catch my drift. You just need a solid team, and I believe if you're able to kind of, get a guy like Lindenberg who can score and shoot it and be able to come in and fill a role and still grow. If you get somebody next to Cade, who is an absolute bucket, and another guy off the bench who can get a bucket and maybe another shooter, I think you will be in the game. I think the team is totally different, what you can do with lineups, what you can do with stuff, but I get where he need a running mate and all that. I think Duren will get better. 22, 23 years, I think he will get better. So you always got to keep in the back of your mind the SGA thing. Like, a lot of guys got traded prematurely, think about Washington. Was it Washington that gave up? I think Golden State gave up on Chris Webber quick. Washington gave up on Chris Webber quick, and he went to Sacramento, and it was like bang, bam, boom, bing, bam, bing, bam. So we'll see what happens. But that's just my take on it. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Find me on X, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, Instagram, Spotify, Anchor, Cash App, everywhere. Peace.